Hi, I'm Samantha Kriegshauser. I'm the CEO of Adult Enrichment Center, and today I'm here with Cassandra, who is a coworker and a dementia educator, and we're going to be talking about elopement versus wandering, which are two of the big scary things that families deal with when caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's.
So this has to be like one of the biggest topics because it is so scary. Yet it's so serious. So first, let's kind of give a difference between elopement versus wandering.
So wandering is when we're roaming around indoors, and we're going from room to room. We may go to a door and open it and look in, and then close the door, and we'll do that repetitively. But we're staying pretty well indoors.
Okay.
Elopement is when we exit. Okay. So when I leave the room or the facility or the house, that is an elopement. And elopement risks are tremendous. Wandering is relatively harmless.
Okay.
As long as there's not basement steps or something, those can be a risk. But inside of the home, we generally have a pretty good idea of where the person is, and they're just exploring. But when I leave the house or the facility, then my risk goes up exponentially.
Is that intentional? Because I'm thinking, okay, I might wander outside and see what's going on out there, but no.
Well, there's two different kinds of wandering. So wandering outside when they're eloping and they go out the door, it may be that they've always gone for a neighborhood walk. And they can do that. And the family knows that when they go out, they're going to walk the block and then they're going to come back. That can be risky because at some point it is highly likely that they will not come right home, or that they don't recognize which house is theirs, or that they took a left at the end of the road instead of the right to bring them back. So always making sure that you're aware when someone elopes from the home or the facility, and keeping an eye on them. And a lot of times in a neighborhood, neighbors will help you, and they'll see them, and it's a thing. So having good communication is really good. The other kind of elopement, the one that's really dangerous, is what we call mission-oriented. And that was when I need to get home.
More intentional.
I have to go home. And so repeatedly you're hearing that, and eventually they find an opening and they're out the door and they're gone. And they're not stopping until they go wherever it is in their head they need to be, and home. And those are the ones that end up in silver-haired alerts, and they end up on the news of a senior who's missing. And it's because they were mission-oriented to get back to somewhere. A lot of times what we hear is home, but they're not talking about the home I've lived in for the last 40 years. I'm talking about my childhood home. Because I'm now further in my timeline, and I'm back to my 20s or my teens or when I was a kid and I grew up on a farm in West Virginia. So that I need to get someplace, when you're hearing that and you're seeing that, your elopement risk just went up, and you need to be very well aware.
If I'm caregiving for someone that is in that wandering stage, should I start planning and thinking?
Should. So we encourage families, and we don't want to turn the home or the facility into a fortress. And we do want people to be as normal as they can be. And if I grew up and I've always gone outside and worked in the garden, then it's not going to be that unusual that I want to go back outside. We just need to have some security in place. And fortunately, we live in the generation of technology. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can have an AirTag on your person. It's in their wallet, so we know where they are. Of course, there's a risk if today they don't have their wallet with them. We may not know that. You can put AirTags in people's shoes. There are a number of life alert systems that are now, life alerts used to be confined to interior space. They went 500 feet. Now they go much further, and it'll track when you go out. People who take their phones with them, you have on location trackers. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but we also start talking about, what happens at night when we're all asleep. And he gets up at 2 a.m. and he decides he's got to be in Texas for whatever. That urgency for the person who's experiencing that is intense. Their anxiety level is up, and they're not going to be able to rest until they try to get wherever it is they believe they're going. We had a gentleman, and he was the nicest man. He'd sit at the table and he'd play cards and checkers. well dressed, always had on his cardigan and his overcoat. And he started talking about needing to get home for Christmas.
Wow.
Now it's July. And so one day he made it past everybody and he got out the front door. And so we're following. We never lost sight of him, but we could not slow him down. And we don't physically restrain people.
Yeah.
He had to, and he was insistent that he had to get home to get presents to his kids before Christmas. So we had somebody walking with him. He crossed 4 lanes of traffic, went across a bridge. He was going home for Christmas, and nothing was going to deter him.
Right.
So we're following. We've got someone in a truck. So we ended up calling. He had a son who was a police officer. We ended up calling PD to come. And so they were able to pull kind of in front of him and get him to stop. And then they offered him a ride to where he needed to go. So we got him in the car. And it turns out he was actually on the road to the house that he raised his kids in 50 years earlier. So his clarity to go home was actually legit.
He was following
and we
through.
found that to be true a lot of times. So you can't, when you start hearing that, when you start seeing that urgency, and when they start wondering, we know that wondering is often, more than 50% of the time, going to turn into an elopement.
Gotcha.
And that elopement to the yard or to the neighborhood will eventually turn into an elopement with a mission.
So I would say greater supervision.
Much greater
when the
supervision,
wandering
awareness
starts.
of what is happening and why. And then making sure that anybody near them or involved in them, and that can be neighbors, friends, family, is very well aware what is happening and how to reach out for help. And then making sure there's something on the person to identify who they are and where they live. So it could be, we used to put tags in the back of kids' clothes so they always made it home again. It could be a tag in their jacket. It could be, you could use technology and use the air tags, but time is critical.
Gotcha.
Okay? They move very fast. You can have someone who has not driven a car in the last 5 years. Suddenly, they found their way to the garage. Underestimating your person and being confident, well, they don't know where the car keys are. Well, he hasn't driven in 5 years.
Well,
None of that is a deterrent.
Yeah.
Okay? On that day, if all of the stars align, they can put it all together and they can get a really long way. And that puts people at risk. So having those safety procedures in place, whether it's you use a nanny cam at the house or you have trackers on them or you just have the neighborhood alert system. Or you get an alert when your back door opens and you're at the office. You run out to work and you have an alarm. Fortunately, technology gives us a lot of ways to keep track of our person, but understanding the differences and knowing that if enough time elapses, more than 50% of people are going to elope with a mission.
Gotcha.
And that's when they're the most at risk.
Gotcha. So definitely for caregivers, it's just understanding that when we start seeing signs of the wandering, just go ahead and start kind of planning and preparing, getting those tools, like you said, like air tags and using the technology. And they may not need it immediately, but understanding it could lead to.
But the thing is, we don't know when that day is.
Well, yeah.
So you could have been wandering our house for the last 2 years and never even opened the back door. But today,
it's today.
Something triggered you and you decided you wanted to walk outside. And you were okay to do that. The problem is, it's very hard to plan for the unknown. So we need to have those conversations early on. So that everybody has a plan for the day that if and when it does happen, we're already prepared for what it could be. Because the ultimate goal is to keep our person safe.
Absolutely.
Give them freedom to roam, explore. We're not on house arrest. If I want to go to the backyard, I should be able to go to the backyard safely. But there should be a system of checks and balances. Someone could fall downstairs or, there's a lot of things. So having a method of knowing that and having that conversation with anybody involved in this person's care is critical.
So that's such a huge topic for adults.
It's a scary one.
Yes. Absolutely.
The idea that your person could be walking down whatever road, and in today's world, they could They could get hurt. They could get sick. They could get picked up by someone who's not well-intentioned. I don't think there's much more terrifying to families than the idea of that their person has eloped.
Absolutely. Just as a caregiver, the thought of my loved one going, my first initial reaction mentally, just thinking it through, is to stop her. You cannot go, Mom. You're not leaving. I'm going to put a chair in front of the door. I mean, it may sound silly, but I don't want my mom to leave. I do not. There's a busy highway.
Right.
What would you say is the no's?
It's not necessarily a question of no's as it is what works in this situation.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people who will put a lock up higher on the door so that maybe their person can't reach it.
Right.
There are people who've put a deadbolt on the inside that you have to have a key. Concerns with both of those are what if there is a fire? What if there is an emergency and we need to get out quickly?
Sure.
Our instinct is always to protect.
Right.
But putting bars on windows and locks on doors is one type of protection, but it's also another type of not, because in the event of an emergency, now no one can access that exit strategy. Physically restraining someone gets dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's only going to work in that moment. So it is very common for folks with cognitive decline to do what we call play possum. So we had a gentleman, he always wore a cardigan sweater. Okay. He was mission oriented to get out every single day. The front door, the back door, down the kitchen hall, wherever he could. He was an escape artist of epic skills. But we could always kind of, we knew, we moved his table. He sat in the middle of the building. Staff were very well aware, but he was good. So every afternoon after lunch, he would sit in his chair and he'd kind of lean back in his chair and close his eyes like he was taking a little cat nap. And so everybody kind of took a breath because we knew he was going to take a 20, 30-minute cat nap. And we had a moment of, we knew where he was.
Yeah.
I was on the floor this day and he was wearing a red cardigan buttoned up with a white shirt. And I checked him. He was there, eyes closed. And I'm like, okay, I know where he is. Went on about my business, looked back, I swear to God, 10 minutes later, and he's gone.
Oh, Lord.
We go searching. He is nowhere in my building. We didn't hear any alarms on the doors. Nobody recalls seeing him. His sweater was on his chair. He took off the red sweater. The sweater was on his chair. So he was gone.
You'd have been looking for the red sweater.
Yes, very, very sneaky because he was mission oriented to go. It took us a full 55 minutes to locate him.
Oh, wow.
And he was in a neighborhood out walking. And those have to be probably the longest 55 minutes of my entire natural life. I was imagining having to call his family and say, we lost him or something happened. And he knew. He knew. When we got him, he comes back in with this little sheepish grin on his face. He's like, hi. And of course, we're kind of
just glad to have
half hugging him and half wanting to throttle him because he escaped. But he was so cute because he knew in that moment, he knew. But he was smart enough to take that bright red sweater off and leave it on his chair. But he also played possum. So I could physically restrain you from leaving today.
In the moment.
All you're going to do is get a little bit more clever. So the first time I step out of the room to go to the bathroom or I go answer the phone or I'm pulling something from the oven, you're going to take your moment and go.
And then even a lot of doors have windows. So if it's the window, the lock is not working. Maybe I need to break the window because
I've had one try to go out a window.
To get out. So
and there's no absolute that works for this. It is I tried this today. Well, fudge. Okay, let's try something different tomorrow. And I'm not going to say there's not ever a time that you don't block the door or physically stop someone from doing something that's harmful. I'm just going to say that we're going to look for every way to prevent it from getting that far. Once again, it's about giving yourself grace.
That's true.
Figure out what works for you and your family.
That is true.
And recognize that if your person does elope, no one is to blame. It's not a blame game. It is a process, part of the disease. And There is nothing you could have done to prevent it.
Right.
There's only a plan to be prepared if it does happen.
If it happens.
So once again, caregivers have a ton of stress on them and need to be able to say, we put this plan in place and now today was my day.
I did what I could.
But he's back home safely because we did this planning ahead of time.
That's true. That's true.
And being able to talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, today we covered the difference between wandering and elopement. And if you'd like more information, you can visit us at our website, www.adultenrichmentcenters.org, or you can follow our YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in.